public policy polling spoke to a representative sample of Americans, and it turns out that it is not a popular piece of legislation. Let's go to graphic 4. Only 24% of Americans support the Graham-Cassidy legislation. The healthcare bill Republicans are furiously whipping to pass ahead of September 30th. Only 20% of those polled said that they thought the bill would cover more Americans. So it's just as unpopular as the past proposals, and it's interesting because right now the Senate GOP is catching heat from all sides, right? So they're catching heat from the donors who want their tax cuts. They're catching heat from their constituents who do not like this legislation. They do like the Medicaid expansion. They do like some of the protections, like the protection regarding pre-existing conditions that the Affordable Care Act provided for them. Now, sure, during the Obama administration, everyone wants to go ahead and hate Obama and talk about how much they hate Obamacare. But when push comes to shove, the majority of Americans actually do like and appreciate the protections that it offers.
Yeah, so to be fair, they did at one point bottom out at 17%. So one of their healthcare proposals was slightly more unpopular than this.
And the reason why this one is higher is because it hasn't been scored.
Yeah.
Right. When the score comes in and it says 28 to 32 million, probably 32 million Americans will lose their health coverage, by 2026. Well, then it'll have the same atrocious score that every other bill, except of course in Alaska, where everybody will keep the Affordable Care Act coverage because this bill would allow Alaska the way to get them to defeat Obamacare is by tantalizing them by allowing a state to entirely keep Obamacare.
To get Lisa Murkowski's vote, which they need. So let's talk about the vector that we use to figure out if something's going to be popular or unpopular, okay? So there's the vector. So there's a couple of factors here to consider. One is propaganda, the other is reality. Now, in an issue where there is almost no reality, propaganda can overwhelm. So, for example, when Republicans scare their voters about Sharia law, well, there's no reality to that, so the propaganda can work completely. So that's never going to touch their personal lives. So they can be like, oh my God, the Sharia law is coming and I'm in a panic and we got to make sure we defeat it and I hate those guys, and it becomes an issue of identity, etc. But when you have an issue like healthcare, which is very real, your family's either going to have healthcare or it's not going to have healthcare. It's either going to cover certain things or it's not. You're either going to pay a certain number or you're not. And depending on those numbers, someone in your family might die. It's the only thing in play is not just reality. There's also still overwhelming propaganda, but that propaganda is at least met by reality in a clash. And so in this case, no matter how much propaganda they did, Obamacare, God, it's connected to a black guy. Did you know that? Okay, and etc. And look, it's not even if it's not racial, just the demagoguing about death panels and all the things that they did. Okay, but so that worked. That worked to make Obamacare underwater, less than 50% popularity for a long, long time.
Throughout the Obama administration.
Yeah. Now though, it has hit a wall of reality where people are saying, wait, okay, you got me to hate Obamacare because I didn't really quite understand it. Like the version in Kentucky, by the way, they actually love. And Mitch McConnell campaigned pretending to be in favor of it. But they just called it something else for propaganda purposes, right? But now when they see the alternative, and the alternative is, no, you're not gonna get health care. And if you're a senior citizen, we're gonna charge you like 4 or 5 times more. What? Okay, and it's gonna cover less stuff, and then 20, 30 million people are not gonna have health care anymore. They're like, I mean, yeah, the other guy was black, but I really want my health care.
Yeah.
And I know you said the other guy had death panels, but without the health care, I'm gonna die. So that kind of sounds like a death panel to me. So it's just too much reality in this case for the propaganda to overwhelm it. Hence, 20% is miserable.
Yeah, and you have, and they're attempting to, they're going on television and they're talking it up and they're arguing with Jimmy Kimmel. We've reached a very strange point. I was talking to Michael Schur today, my brother actually, today, and in 1977, if Johnny Carson had argued with a Republican senator with Alan Simpson, right, in 1977, or Howard Baker in 1977 about health care, and one guy going on Meet the Press and then Carson going on his show and arguing. We would have thought, that's ridiculous. Johnny, you're a comedian on late night television. Do your interviews with Burt Reynolds and move along. Burt Reynolds was a movie star.
He's a Jew with a mustache, right?
That's right. You know, and stay out of this lane, which is the line they're using now all the time. Jimmy Kimmel's wife, who's the head writer on the show, had a great tweet. She said, no, after what we've been through, it's our lane. Look out, we're merging.
Oh, that's a great line.
Get it.
She's the head writer on Kimmel's show. They've been married for a while.
No wonder.
But it would have been absurd. Whereas now we've entered into a place where when I saw the headline from many on the right and the tweets from many on the right, how ridiculous is it that Jimmy Kimmel was arguing with Bill Cassidy? And I thought, I'm sure Jimmy Kimmel knows far more about healthcare than Bill Cassidy.
Why would it be
positive.
Why would it be ridiculous?
Because he went through it, so he had a crisis with his child. He is an empathetic human being, and he talked to other parents, and he talked to doctors and nurses, and at some point they asked, hey, what if we didn't have this great insurance from Disney? And they went, well, then, and he was like, oh my God, that's horrible. And they're like, but you can people get covered now. And so he's like, oh, that's great, right? Because he's a normal, and he has some, and he read in, and he cared about it. And I'm certain he cares more about it because Bill Cassidy, in every appearance he has, indicates he didn't even know what's in the bill that has his name on it.
That's right, yeah.
So it's going along with that, the other part is that's different from 1977 is that, yeah, it was far from perfect. I'm not idealizing the good old days, but there was an actual intellectual debate and principle debate from time to time about some issues. Now it's all the debates are littered with lies.
That's right.
So when Cassidy and Lindsey Graham talk about, oh my God, we're going to help the red states here, and the blue states have been ripping you off. People then go, wait a minute though, it's the only reason the blue states are getting more money now is because they signed up for what was available. And some of the people who debunk that Republican lie is other Republicans who are governors of states like Ohio and Michigan and go, no, we signed up for it because the government is the federal government is helping to take care of our citizens, which we thought was a huge win. So when you say that we're unduly getting money in Ohio and Michigan, led by Republican governors, that's not true. That's just a lie. And so when you go around pretending that, hey, you know what, these red states are going to be way better off because the blue states were ripping out. The second part of that equation is also not true. The red states are not going to be better off. They're eventually going to have their Medicaid cut. That's a fact.
And the Republican governors, like in my home state of Maryland, Larry Hogan, the governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan took the money. Right, and they took the money in Ohio, right? Because it was the only logic. Because turning down the money was just spiteful. It was just an attempt to say Obamacare is not coming here,
right.
And the people who suffer for it were the poorest people and the neediest people in your state. That's all it was. And so there are, and many of these Republican governors, as Jake said, have come out now and said whether it's a traditionally blue state like Maryland or an actual red state like Alaska. And they're like, well, actually, no.
Yeah, and even some of
I'm right about Alaska. Didn't the governor of Alaska say?
Yep. They were trying to woo him, but at the end he was like, no, I know you're trying to entice me with more money, but what you're saying is just not true. Right. And by the way, administrators in even the deepest red states say, no, they are going to cut Medicaid. I mean, look, maybe we were in favor of it because we're Republicans and we're awesome, but. And it's awesome to cut Medicaid, but they are in fact going to cut Medicaid. So they're lying. So it's a different dynamic. That's what leads to the frustration of someone like Jimmy Kimmel going, wait a minute, that's just not remotely true. And Johnny Carson, I don't think would have been in a situation to burst out like that because it was just a different dynamic. And finally, speaking of different dynamics, now that they've seen the alternative, Obamacare polling at 54%, above water, more than 50% popular, is gaining in popularity every single day. They're like, well, I mean, they told me Obamacare was bad. They didn't tell me that their proposal was way, way worse. Given that, I want pre-existing conditions covered. Obamacare not so bad.
And look, man, if we lived in any way a civilized political environment, Obamacare has problems, right? Many of those problems brought on by the states that wouldn't take the Medicaid money, but also in areas where there isn't any competition, right? So then a then there'd be a civilized, normal debate, the kind that we had at times in 1977, about buttressing it, about making it better and fixing those problems. Which, by the way, everyone involved with Obamacare, everyone who launched it, everyone who planned, thought would happen, right? I mean, it would have been, if Obama was president, he'd be like, great, yes, fix those problems.
All right, I lied. I'm going to say one super last thing. Okay, you know what's polling at 3 times the rate of the Republican proposal?
Man.
Medicare for all at 60%. More popular than Obamacare and 3 times as popular as the Republican proposals.
Can I say one thing? Because I think I had a good idea, and I don't have a lot of them. And it involves reading my last tweet, but it's significant because my thought was this, is that Donald Trump, anytime he tweets about anything having to do with the ACA, right? And repealing it, and his last one was Rand Paul, or whoever votes against the health care bill will forever be known as the Republican who saved Obamacare, right? So then you subtweet that and you write essentially what I wrote here, which is the open enrollment period to sign up for the ACA health insurance for 2018 starts November 1st, 2017 and runs through 12/15, and then link to the open enrollment, which I actually didn't do, but I will when I do it again. Like because Trump cut by 90% advertising for that very fact. Part of that is getting people, because literally doesn't want people to sign up to get health care. So they cut that for 90%. So if we could take any time Donald Trump mentions it and then use that to just remind people, hey, you want to sign up for 2018? And it's probably still going to be there because Graham-Cassidy may be dead now. Here's how to do it. Here's the link to do it. I think it'd be a really effective way to combat Donald Trump if thousands and thousands of people did it.
Help us build independent media together. Come join us, tytnetwork.com/join.